and introduce our guest, Dee Bradley Baker, today. Dee,
How's it going?
Hey, Dee,
Hello from Littleton, Colorado.
thank you so much for joining us, Dee. We really appreciate having you. And this has been an idea that I've wanted to do for quite some time. And, you know, a lot of things with COVID have made our life interesting, but also opened up some great opportunities. And one of them is the ability to do these speaker series with wonderful presenters like you. But
You
Dee,
flatter me.
yeah, I'll give a little introduction and then you can cover the rest. But Dee is an Emmy and Annie nominated Hollywood voice actor.
I'm a two-time loser, actually. I lost both of those nominations. I want to point that out.
But your voice is seemingly everywhere, and you've been in hundreds of television shows, movies, and even video games. And on the behindthevoiceactor.com, you're listed as having the most characters of any voice actor ever. And so over the past 3 decades, Dee has earned an extraordinary reputation among show creators and fans alike with his chameleon-like acting skills and his wide range of realistic creature vocal acting. And there's so many, so many projects to list. There he goes.
I'm a show-off is what I am.
He's a show-off. So one of the unique things I think about Dee is that, you know, he does this all naturally, no added.
No additives.
No additives.
It's all natural.
All natural. But I'm going to let you take this crazy show over because enough babbling for me. They came to see you and really appreciate having you here. Again, everybody,
Thank you, Scott.
Put your questions into chat and take it away, Dee.
All right. Well, thanks very much for inviting me to talk about myself. I'm usually at the mic serving somebody else's story, and now I'm going to be serving up my own today, I guess. So what I've done is I can't see my audience, but it sounds like you're all kind of interested in learning about the world and furthering your education. And so what I've done is I put together a little presentation with pretty pictures to kind of walk you through what I do, and then walk you through how I kind of stumbled into this life and this career, and then to get into some of my ideas about how you should go about becoming a creative and what I think education is best for, and some other tips and ideas and advice that I have picked up along the way that you can inspect and either throw out or, you know, put in your backpack and take around with you. So we'll see. But I hope you have a lot of fun today, and let's start the show. So I'm going to share my screen. Da-da-da. There we go. So I've called this presentation Bugs and UFOs, How I Stumbled into My Insane Voice Acting Career. And you'll see it's pretty insane, the stuff that I get to do every day. Every day is different for me. I am a freelance voice actor, which is a subset of actors. And this is what I do. I'll talk about that more later, but my career is now mobile since COVID. The part of the entertainment industry that was able to keep going pretty much without a blip was animation, the creation of animation. It's a deeply collaborative process with hundreds of people working on a particular show at once, and they found out very quickly that that can be done remotely. Thank heavens. So I quickly figured out how to put together a home studio, and in any case, I'll get into that later. I'll start out with my my little presentation about who I am, what I do, and how I think it happened, as far as I remember it. So I'm mostly known for a number of roles, including Klaus on American Dad, and the little character on the right, the little hideous character sitting in the middle of a pastry, that's Rogu. And those are 2 characters on American Dad, which is it's a fun show that we're still working on, and hopefully that will continue forever. I'm also known by the younger set, or fairly young set, as the voice of Perry the Platypus, which is just a like that. That's all the sound that is. Occasionally, Perry the Platypus will this is a Disney cartoon. He'll yawn, or he'll make an effort sound, or maybe he'll be sleeping. There's something a little bit different, but for the most part, that's a unique project in that they brought me in and just said, "Here's what he looks like. Let's just make 3 different sounds." and we'll pick one, and that's going to be the sound. I said, well, does he talk? Is he saying something? Is something happening? Because that's what I'm asked to do, is to interpret as an actor the sounds. I don't just make sounds. It's acting. And they said, no, actually, we just want kind of a straight, dead, flat sound. If we want other additions to that, we'll sprinkle that in later. So that one fateful day, they started recording, and I just did the and they said, "Okay, thanks. We'll choose one of those 3. Thank you very much. You can expect a session fee at some later date." so they picked the latter of those 3 and proceeded to plop it into every single episode of Phineas and Ferb, which is it's the most amount of money I've made for the least amount of work. I love that show. It's a beautifully written, heartfelt show with great songs. I often say that animation is the last bastion of melody. It's a great place that kids actually learn some good music, is in a lot of cartoons, including and especially Phineas and Ferb. I'm all over SpongeBob. Most people are familiar with SpongeBob. Even the woman who ran my grandmother's rest home had SpongeBob sleepwear. And so I guess it has a very broad appeal. I voice Perch Perkins Action News, the news reporter. I do Squilliam Fancyson, Squidward's nemesis. I do Kevin the Sea Cucumber, who's like an ultra uber nerd. Old Man Jenkins. Now, I do Old Man Jenkins sometimes, but sometimes another voice actor will do, or a few of them will sprinkle in and be Old Man Jenkins. And then there's Bubble Bass. No pickles. Bubble Bass is a recurring character who will appear in other iterations of the SpongeBob universe that have started to blossom in streaming or on television these days. We're working on about three, I think 3 shows, and plus there's a movie every now and then. I'm usually on those too. But I'm liberally sprinkled throughout the SpongeBob universe, doing all sorts of what we call incidentals, which is it's so much more important than it sounds. At least I wish it were. But it's anything from, the delivery guy that says, "Here you go, sir," to something close to being a guest character. But I'm often asked to voice all kinds of different characters on SpongeBob, from creatures and monsters to speaking characters as well. It's a really fun show, and it's a really interesting example of just kind of the evolution of visual storytelling, which I will talk about a little bit later in hopefully the way that's fascinating to you and not crashingly boring. I was in a movie called Space Jam, where I played Daffy Duck. And Taz. That was earlier in my career after I'd moved to Hollywood. My wife and I moved to Hollywood back in end of 93, just in time for the Northridge earthquake. And and it took a couple of years to get some traction. And my work on Space Jam was kind of my first big break in Hollywood, that is, where I was hired to do these characters, which I had not done before, but I just have a lot of connection to Daffy Duck. I relate to Daffy Duck. I aspire to be Daffy Duck. He's got kind of a default that I'm very drawn to. Anyway, that was a lot of fun working on a big kind of feature film project like that. There I am. You can see me lower left there, working with Ivan Reitman, the producer, and kind of the guiding creative force who shepherded that entire unwieldy project, which from the time that it was originally pitched, I mean, actual production started to when it actually aired, it was less than a year and a half. So if you know anything about the entertainment industry or making movies or making animated movies, that's an insanely short amount of time. And so there was a giant, expensive worldwide scramble to get that show done and produced, which in the end produced a movie that it's a little uneven in some parts, but most people are very fond about it. There's a lot of fun in it, and it was a really fun launch to my voice acting career earlier on back in the old days, at least for me. As I mentioned, I do a lot of weird things. I do creature sounds and monster sounds. That's about half of what I do. There's a lot of shows I'll highlight soon that are starting that use me. Disney, all the major studios do. Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon certainly. And this Nickelodeon series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I think you can still stream. That's a particularly beautiful series. If you want to watch something with the kids or with your family, it's great. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, but in an alternative universe that's Asian themed, and it's really gorgeous. Beautiful writing, great voice acting. Our voice director Andrea Romano is brilliant, and it's some of the most fun I've ever had doing a show or a series. And the way that we would do it is they would record the episodes, and it's a world that's alive with all of these creatures. And so they would, towards the end of the production process and what they call post-production, they would just show me the scene, and I would pick out the monsters or creatures or animals and make sounds for them, from the small and the tiny to the big and the lumbering and the threatening. But in particular in that series, there's Momo, who is the long-eared lemur up there, which is a like that, which I'm doing with an inhale and sort of flapping my uvula around if you want to get clinical about it. Then down here in the lower right is Appa, who's this giant flying sky bison, who I do with a hopefully Zoom won't cancel those sounds out. Zoom often doesn't like the sounds that I do. But anyway, what a wonderful show. Mike and Brian, who are the show creators on that, they now have a new reconstituted Avatar Studios. I think that's what it's called. That under the umbrella of Nickelodeon and Paramount, and they're going to be making new shows and new content from that world, which I very much look forward to, and hopefully they'll give me a call and I can work on it. We'll see. So as I said, a lot of monsters, a lot of creatures, animals in feature films as well as animation. Down there in the center, below, this lovely creature is the Nun, which was a horror movie that came out a couple years back, and I did most of her roaring, breathing horror sounds for that. And then upper left, it's the remake of Fright Night, where I did a bunch of vampire sounds for that. But then there's also video games and television series and some other stuff that I'll mention here in just a minute. But that's kind of what I've known for, is that specialty. And that's part of what I wanted to kind of unpack for you a little bit as to why I think I'm doing this kind of stuff now. It's a very weird, very odd career to have, to not just be a cartoon voice actor or a animation voice actor, but to be one that just half the time makes non-human sounds. It's a very weird mode of theater. I did vocals for Jon Favreau's Junglebook here. That is, I didn't do the speaking lines of, say, King Louie or Baloo the Bear, but if there were incidental sounds to layer in to give presence and reality to the monkeys or the panther or whatever, then I would add that kind of stuff. It's very subtle, and often less is more with that kind of stuff. But it's a really fun kind of challenge to problem solve that kind of stuff, and I like it, and I'm very good at it, and I have theories as to why that is the case, which I'll share with you today. Yep, the Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies. I did a lot of creature sounds for that, which is exciting. I've loved Lord of the Rings since I was a little kid, and fun to problem solve that. So this is what I look like on the job. It's very glamorous, as you can see. Down there, lower right, I was actually once paid by Disney to make the sounds of animals spitting water for a water park feature in one of their Orlando theme parks. So I was literally paid to spit water with a layering in of animal sounds in addition to that. And the other things I do, like in the upper left, I was showing you, like with if I'm making a large roar or a screech or a more resonant sound like appa that I just demonstrated for you, I will close my nose to give it a more resonance. So instead of, for instance, without my closing my nose, instead of a if I close my nose, like you see up there in the upper left, it's a, and that's just using my voice and the cranial cavity that I'm modifying the column of air by pinching my nose shut. Again, this is a very weird career, but it's a lot of fun. On some days at the end of my day, my nose is very red from pinching it shut. Also, there's a movie, The Box Trolls, that came out. They called upon me to sort of develop and figure out what they're going to sound like and what their language was. These little benevolent creatures who look scary and scare the humans, but they're actually quite sweet. And so they wanted something that had the edge, but that was also sweet and in a way that fit with the tone of the story that they were using. And so I worked with them back and forth and kind of workshopped that until they found something that they liked, and we got a lock on that. And then we called in Steve Bloom, my friend, a fellow voice actor, Steve Bloom, in the upper left, and then he and I were the two main box trolls in the Box Troll movie. So if you haven't seen that, it's a stop motion animation by the Leica studio that did Coraline, and a lot of really awesome, creative, really outstanding stop motion creative movies that kind of thing really got traction again since Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think that's a really great thing, that it's not just about 2D or 3D or stop motion. It's you can tell a good story in all sorts of different formats, and stop motion is a real favorite of mine ever since I was a kid. Moving right along. Oh, if you ever go to Disneyland, the parrot, that's me. I'm the parrot. I'm the
yo-ho, yo-ho, pirate's life for me.
That's me. They're in that little spit of land right at the very end, and I think I might be peppered throughout the ride as well at Disneyland. But yeah, they brought me in to do the parrot. They used me in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and so when they were upgrading the ride of Pirates of the Caribbean, they brought me in to provide the parrot for that as well. I've been parroted in a fair number of movies, as well as of animated cartoons as well on television. Video games. If you play video games, I don't know, if you're my age, you probably, or older. I'm almost 59. You probably don't play many video games. But those younger, I used to play a lot of video games, actually. I just don't have time right now. But those younger will know me from a lot of kind of prominent video games that were very, very cool, including the ones that you see here. Overwatch is still played a lot, and that's a lot of fun. Portal 2, there's a lot of affection for that. Batman Arkham Asylum, I played Ra's al Ghul, a spoken character, more of a straight-ahead villain. And I can also speak words and act. Not just, as you'll see, it's not just about sounds and the weird stuff. But these are really great, fun games. I'm very proud to have been a part of. Also, Destiny is a really fun multiplayer game that tens of, probably millions of people play, and I play a character in there called Barracks. Star Wars universe. I've been working in that for over a decade. I think I might be in I may have done more voices in Star Wars than anybody, but I don't really know. And who cares? It doesn't really mean anything. But I've been in a lot of Star Wars, and I'm very proud about that because I've loved Star Wars since I was a little kid, as you'll see in a second. In the Star Wars Awakens feature film, I did the first alien to die. That red-faced guy on the left is kind of a that kind of a sound. Poor guy was offed rather quickly. And I think I might have done some sounds for that kind of warthog creature there too. But I can't really say if they used it or not, but I think they did. I'm not sure. Often I'll work on a project or a movie, and it's like I need to see the movie and hear what they used so that I can actually confirm that I was in it. Because I've done shows where I was in it, I was recorded for it, but they end up not doing it, or they go with a different direction or something. Which is that's you know, that's Hollywood. That's showbiz. At least you get the session fee for the work. If you're watching the television series that Lucas Animation has been making for the past over a decade, I'm in all of those, especially the Clone Wars. That's kind of where it started for me, where they need the voices of an army of clones, which are the soldier characters that you see there. They're human. They're straight ahead. Nothing weird about them. They're just soldiers who are specially bred and then cloned to serve what ends up being nefarious purposes. But anyways, that's kept kicking along with just beautiful storytelling, beautiful animation, beautiful writing. Really exciting for me to be a part of the Star Wars universe, and in particular, the Clone Wars and its iterations. So there I am. There's like every soldier that you see in that series, and there's like millions of them. But I try to make each one different. I want each one to sound a little distinct, have its own personality, and just kind of give a little artistic, actory spin on each one. So each one is his own human. That's very, very important. I've also done other characters in the Star Wars universe, the television shows. As you see there, the Geonosian Queen in the upper right. She was all done with an inhale like that. Like that. Bosk is a fan favorite. He's a bounty hunter. Admiral Trench, he didn't make it. He's finally got killed at the end of the Clone Wars. He was a bad guy though. If you play the video games, Star Wars Battlefront 2, I'm hundreds of clones in that. That took a long time to record. But if you're a fan and you're a gamer and you love that game, it's a really cool, immersive game from the Star Wars universe, and I am all over in that. If you see any clones, that's me. Yep, they made Star Wars Rebels, another series, and I played older clones in that. Rex, Gregor, and Wolf were in the original Clone Wars series, and they made it out alive, which not a lot of clones did. And so I was happy that at least they made it out. Rex, one of the main clones there, he's there on the left. He made it all the way to Endor, which if you're a Star Wars aficionado, you know what that means. It's the end of episode 6. 'Cause I'm a Star Wars nerd. All right. Right now, there's Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which is streaming on Disney Plus. And it's a really awesome show. I'm very proud of that show. I play all of the Bad Batch, and they sound even more distinct. These are modified clones, and they're even more distinct than the regular clones. So I mean, over here on the far left is Echo, and then you have Crosshair in the back there. Then standing center is their leader. His name is Hunter. And then next to him is Tech. And then on the far right is Wrecker. And they all sound, as you can hear, they sound more distinct. And a lot of that series is just me talking to myself. Well, you just perform the scene, and I know these guys, and I know these characters well enough, and I just switch back and forth, and we just go right through it. It's really fun. Great show to watch, beautiful writing. It looks cinematic. Very proud to be working on that show. Here's a picture of me a while ago. This was right after Star Wars came out. For Halloween, my folks helped me put together a Jawa costume, which is a little critter that you'll know if you look at Star Wars. I've since met some Jawas, which I was very excited about. But it shows you how far back this goes for me. It was really a fun, deeply resonant event in my life to be brought into the Star Wars universe, and now to be this major player in a lot of the content that they make. I'm very proud of it, and it's great fun. But it's best of all when there's something that you love as a kid, and you get to do something in that realm when you're grown up. It's pretty cool. Okay. Frequently asked questions. Did you always make weird sounds as a kid? No, I didn't. I didn't do that at all. I was a little theater nerd. I'll get into that too. I liked reading. I got good grades. I liked theater and sci-fi and monster movies, but I was not making weird sounds to be a show off. I wasn't that kind of a show off. I think I didn't fully develop my insecurities, which caused me to become a show off until high school. I'm about to go to my 48th high school reunion, actually, this next weekend. That shows you how old I am. What's your favorite character that you voiced? I don't have a favorite character, but there's ones that I'm particularly fond of. I love the clones. I love working in the Star Wars universe. I love Momo and Appa in particular because of those wonderful stories in the Avatar Airbender world. And Klaus is a real kick. to naughty Klaus in the American Dad show. He's a real kick to be portraying. Are your kids and wife delighted with your crazy voices? No, they're not. They're sick of Daddy's weird voices. They don't care about that. When I tried to read my firstborn The Hobbit, it's like, oh, all right, here we go. I'm gonna pop open The Hobbit and I'm gonna read you all the different voices, and because this is what I do. And her response was, "Talk normal, Daddy. Talk normal." So I just read it in my regular Daddy voice because that's all that really matters. Not Daddy showing off or doing his silly voices, for goodness sakes. Can you listen to my voiceover demo? No, I can't. I don't have time for that. Besides, I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't hire people, and I'm not a casting director or an agent. So it's not going to help anyway. Have you ever thought about being a real actor? Oh, whoa, hold your horses there. Voice acting is real acting. Although sometimes other actors don't think that we are. We're like the redheaded stepchild left in the attic of actors. But actually, it's really, you can actually be a not so good actor and do on camera, but you can't really be a not so good actor and be a voice actor, it turns out. Behind the mic, there's nowhere to hide. All right, what's Seth MacFarlane like, and can I date him? He's a very nice guy. I love working with him. He's brilliant. And I don't really have any kind of in with him in terms of who he's dating, so I can't help you with that. Sorry about it. Sorry about that, though. But thanks for asking. How can I get into voice acting? Oh, well, let's see. I'm going to answer that question in a second. Very thoroughly. But first, I wanted to just highlight a few things that are coming up that I'm in. Centaur World is over on Netflix. SpongeBob has a new iteration called Camp Coral that is very funny. It looks gorgeous, and it's great SpongeBob. It's great fun. Marvel's got a new superhero movie coming out called Shang-Chi, and I do the sounds for this weird creature. I don't even know what it's called, and they don't even have pictures of it out yet. So don't tell anyone. And then there's a new Nickelodeon series called Shark Dog, and I play Shark Dog in that. There's the Patrick Star Show, which is another SpongeBob show that's coming out that's completely insanely funny. And we're doing more SpongeBob, too. There's a Bad Batch. And then down below, a Suicide Squad just opened up. The Suicide Squad just opened up. You can see that in theaters or on HBO Max. And I voice the rat, Sebastian, who you see right there, and also all the other rats in the movie, of which there are more than a few, I'll say. And then finally, in the Star Trek universe, I was asked to voice this little globulous fellow, whose name is Murph. Actually, I'm working on that later today, from my Space Cube studio here. And so those are projects that are either premiering this year or are just started streaming and just started airing. So lots of fun, cool stuff coming out that I'm very proud of. All right. how my career found me. It's a very odd career, as I said. How did I get here? David Byrne is asking me. Well, I'm going to try to show you how it all came together. It started once upon a time, my hometown of Greeley, Colorado, a place that you can smell before you see it as you're approaching. It's got a university there where my dad taught, and he's retired now, but still lives there. And it's got a great rodeo and feedlots with lots of cows and pigs and methane, lots of methane. There I am sitting with my family after we moved to Greeley, Colorado from Bloomington, Indiana. We moved there because my mom had asthma and had to find a good asthma clinic, which was my dad was told was the Jewish hospital in Denver. So we moved to Denver, and then he had a friend up at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley who said, come up and I think I can get you a teaching gig. And so that happened. And so we moved to Greeley, Colorado. Me and my 2 siblings and mom and dad back in the mid-60s. There I am growing up from kindergarten through 11th grade with my braces on. There's my university high school, which is it's now, I think, just kind of an empty shell, sadly. And there's Glenmere Park, where I would often catch crawdads. I like animals, as I'm about to unpack for you. I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid. I loved fantasy and Lord of the Rings and sci-fi. I also really thought science was cool too, and I still do. I really like science. I listen to a lot of audiobooks that are scientific or psychological or deal with the evolution of psychology and evolution in general, evolution of intelligence. That kind of stuff is the stuff that floats my boat. I've got a lifelong habit of writing in a diary. My mom's mom, Lucille, she didn't want to be called Velma. She gave me a 5-year diary in 2nd grade, which actually, come to think of it, that was the year that I started acting too. I think I started acting before I started journaling, but in any case, I still write in a journal every day, and I think it's a beneficial and healthy activity to sort of be in a process of continual self-excavation, shall we say. I don't have a therapist, at least yet, but I kind of serve as my own therapist by giving myself an honest space to say whatever I've got on my mind or in my heart, or that's good or that's bad or anything, and then I get that out. And so I put that in a journal, which I think is a really good thing for anyone to do, especially a creative person, and in particular, an actor. I think that's a good thing for an actor to do. Boop. I've got some creatives in my family. My dad's dad over there on the left, he started out playing slide guitar and ukulele, and he'd draw chalk drawings on the ground and tell stories around that. You can see that picture with a cardinal is a little manual that he made on how to play Hawaiian ukulele songs, which apparently was a big thing to do back in the 1920s. It's pretty cool. His brother, my Uncle Ben, who I may have met, but I was extremely young. He was a painter. Both my grandfathers were painters on my dad's side. And there's my dad. He's a trombonist, played with Stan Kenton and Henry Mancini and others until he settled down as an academic, although he kept performing. But he started the jazz program at Bloomington, Indiana University, as well as University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, where I grew up. So there's music in my family. Did a lot of plays and musicals starting in 2nd grade. I always liked to do plays and musicals. I was a good singer, and it was fun. So there I am as Oliver in 2nd grade, then Oliver again at the university in 4th grade, and then Oliver again at the Chuckwagon Dinner Playhouse in 6th grade. I liked being Oliver. The last gig at the Chuckwagon Dinner Playhouse paid a little bit, which was just insane amount of money for me, like $13 a night or performance, which is just crazy, crazy money. Probably more money than you should pay Oliver, because actually Fagin and Nancy do the lion's share of work in that musical, if you're familiar with it. Harry, I'm doing the Music Man with at the Chuckwagon Dinner Playhouse again with my brother and sister. I'm there in the center. My sister Amy's there on the left. My brother played. They were Amaryllis and Winthrop. I was just like kid in the town, and had a lot of fun playing that with all my friends over the summer, a long time ago. Did a lot of singing, did a lot of acting since second grade at what became University High School, and also at University of Northern Colorado. I was kind of this boy soprano that they would call over and do, like Bernstein's Mass or something like that, as well as musicals. And there's my drama teacher, Bob Stack, who I have to credit with getting me to do a lot of acting and trying a lot of things that were well beyond anything that I had the confidence for, and learning an appreciation and connection with the theater. So thank you, Bob Stack. He's no longer with us. I listened to audio comedy, which I thought was really cool back in middle school and in high school. I'm a real Zappa fan. I like Frank Zappa an awful lot. But all of these groups and guys here that you're seeing on this page, these are who I thought were cool. I thought these are people who are way more confident, way smarter, way more talented, way more everything than I could ever be. That's what I thought. And I really admired them. And I think their influence meant a lot to where I steered my life and how I formed my mind. I made audio sketches when I was a kid. What I would do is I would use old batteries that were like half dead or half alive, and I'd record my voice or record the sketch. Then I'd put in fresh batteries and play it back so that my voice was sped up, kind of like a chipmunk or something. I thought it was fun to modify my voice even back then. Maybe even back then I was a closeted voice actor. Speaking of throwing one's voice, here I am, just as an 11-year-old, doing ventriloquism with my Danny O'Day doll that my dad retrofitted with a Clorox bottle inside of it so that I could move his head around, which was a nice little upgrade. I think my folks got that from the J.C. Penney's catalog. Gave it to me for Christmas one year, and I did a few years of crummy ventriloquism. I don't think I was very good at it, but it doesn't really matter. It was fun to do. And there's some of my puppeteer heroes. Loved science fiction. I was all about Star Trek. I was beside myself when Star Wars came out with Episode 4. I still love that kind of stuff. Close Encounters is one of my favorite movies. Planet of the Apes, I think I would have said, if you'd asked me in the mid-70s what my favorite movie was, I would have said probably Planet of the Apes. That was before I saw Star Wars. So I like the idea of science fiction and monsters and planetary travel and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd draw aliens and monsters. Down there in the lower right, you can see I'm inspired by the Star Wars bar scene to have all these aliens kind of hanging out, talking with each other. And so I thought maybe how can I do this? I'll draw pictures of it. I'll draw pictures and maybe I'll send them to George Lucas and I can help make another Star Wars movie with these aliens that I draw. Of course, I was too chicken to do that, but at least I drew them, It's like I was trying to make these weird creations. I made sketch movies with my buddies. Here we are on the right side. I told my family to wait outside, which they were very nice to accommodate. And during a day, we shot this kind of comedy sketch in my kitchen. We spent a couple of weeks doing a sketch movie show that we shot on equipment that we borrowed from the local cable company. They had local public access laws that made them have to lend out their equipment to the public. And so we took advantage of that, and we made movies which aired on local public or Colorado television for, I think, a decade or two. Some of the most fun I've ever had. Just great fun. There was weird stuff happening around my house up there in the prairie of the northeastern Colorado. There were reports of UFOs. There were reports in Colorado of Bigfoot. There's apparently a picture of one of a Bigfoot corpse being transported. Obviously, it's obviously a Bigfoot being transported by a helicopter. There were reports of these mysterious black helicopters in the area, as well as cattle mutilations. All of these things that I was tracking and fascinated with because I wanted nothing more than to see a monster or an alien or something like that. Here's an article from the Greeley Tribune, June 5th, 1973, that I clipped out about this UFO sighting. And there were a few of those that happened. They seem to happen around the nuclear power plant that was close to our house. Sounds like a science fiction movie, doesn't it? That was very exciting for me. Little D, there I am with my telescope there, getting ready to stand in the backyard. I saw a few meteor showers, certainly, and I knew the summer sky quite well, but I never saw those UFOs. Still hoping. My connection with animals. Why do I do animals? Why do I do creatures? Well, first of all, my dad and his dad and my mom's dad, they're all outdoorsmen, loved fishing, loved hunting for a little bit. I went along with that for some of that, but ultimately I think we kind of grew out of the taste for shooting, and we transitioned to fish, which started as bait fishing and then transitioned into lure fishing and then transitioned into the more elegant and forgiving to the fish, fly fishing. Here's some of my childhood pets. Everything from baby catfish to leeches to any kind of reptile thing, carnivorous plants, guinea pig, sea monkeys. It's like anything. If I could put anything into that terrarium next to me in my room, I would do it. One time, my friend brought me a bat, and my mom said in a shoebox that he found. And my mom said, no, "You can't keep that." So I took the shoebox up to our treehouse and opened the lid, and the little guy flew away. Oh well. These days, I'm happy to have creatures crawl on me, anything from reptiles to mantids. And look, there's a chuckwalla that I met. I finally got to meet a chuckwalla. I've always read about them, but I never met one until a couple summers ago. One of my hobbies is doing macro photography of bugs and small critters. And I made I've made lots of pictures of those over the past few years with a simple little lens called an oloclip. But it's a diopter, which is a magnifying lens that I clip onto my iPhone and just take pictures of whatever I walk past. Here's some more pictures. Ooh, there's something called a wheel bug. It's an assassin bug that's got that bee. Oh, it's an amazing. It's like one of the largest bugs in existence. It's incredible. I met that guy in Pueblo a couple of years ago. And I made a website for my amateur photography, and I want to underscore it's just amateur. I'm not any good, but I love doing it, and it's really fun, and I learn a lot from it. So I made a site called dbakerphotography.com where I post my pictures of insects. It's not to make any money. You can buy stuff from it actually, but I've never made any money, and I don't want to make money. I want to have things in my life that I do because they bring me enthusiasm, that because they're fun, because I love them, not because money's involved. I make plenty of dough as a voice actor. That's fine. But I think everybody should have things that they do for free that they love. Hobbies, if you want to call it, pastimes. So I never intended to become an actor or a voice actor. I didn't think that acting was a career. First of all, that I had the talent for, and second of all, that you could actually earn a living doing. I saw it really as a hobby, even up to my late 20s, even though I was doing it fairly regularly, but it just didn't strike me as something that you can do and earn a living at. These are some of my favorite actors here that you'll see. Everything from H.R. Pufnstuf to Batman villains to Peter Sellers, who was actually the first celebrity death that really struck me, because I just thought he did such a brilliant job in Dr. Strangelove there. Just jaw-droppingly, amazingly good. And Daffy Duck, Looney Tunes characters, there's some acting for you, and I'm not being facetious either. So at first I thought, well, maybe I'll be a paleontologist because I love dinosaurs. That's one thing I was considering. There I am smiling with my sister, who's not so in the lower center. She's not so happy, but I'm pretty darn happy to be standing next to a stegosaurus. Or maybe I thought maybe I could be a scientist because I kind of liked science. I thought biology was cool. There I am at science camp after my junior year of high school. There I am. I mean, look at me. What a show off I was. That's not a scientist. That's a goofball show off is what you got right there. My literature was mostly science fiction, but it was also horror comics and Mad Magazine. I love the greats Asimov, Clarke, J.R. Tolkien, and fellow Hoosier Kurt Vonnegut. And these days, especially, I like Ray Bradbury. I think he's awesome. He's awesome. He's great for midlife. I was watching lots of movies, playing video games, watching TV, filling what I call my internal database of ideas and characters that I would later use when I became an actor. Reading lots of comics. I loved comics. I thought those were very cool. Didn't really collect comic books, but I would read them now and then. So my second career dream, which it seemed like a career that I might be able to do, was doing special effects makeup. When I was in high school, I thought, well, maybe I could do that, even though I have no idea how to start or where to go, or I just wouldn't have any clue. But I was really into any movie that came out in the 80s that featured what we call special effects makeup, such as some of the movies that you see here. American Werewolf in London, all kinds of stuff. Altered States, there's Dick Smith, who's one of the all-time greats there. Movies like The Thing, Planet of the Apes. Oh, and look, there's Lon Chaney Sr., fellow Coloradoan. He grew up in Colorado Springs. Man of a thousand voices. I love the idea of making monsters. I thought Ray Harryhausen, the animator for a lot of monsters in numerous movies, the Sinbad movies, for instance, I thought he was super cool. I still think he is. Creating creatures and characters. So I clearly wanted to do this when I was younger. Here I am. I've Elmer glued black hair to my little face to make myself a werewolf up there. And here I am dressing up as a nerd in college. I would actually dress up like that and walk around in character. I once asked a girl on a date, and we went out as a nerd date in character. Here I am with my face melting off for Halloween. I'd walk around and just kind of creep people out at Halloween parties in college. And down below, you see those are my makeup kits. And there's a creature that I created for this sketch comedy that my friends and I shot. And there's the creature head that I found in a used bin that I kind of spiffed it up and we used it. My dad loved making monsters for Halloween. He'd make some kind of a creature. Like one year there was a floating skull in the yard, in our backyard when we came back from trick-or-treating. And so every year there was some strange, fascinating creature. And so he gave me, he's part of my love of monsters is what my dad gave me. And so now every Halloween I make my Halloween creepy yard. So these are some examples of the creations that I make. They're mostly made with PVC piping. And then I get some scary mask that I think is creepy. And then I just kind of build it and make this thing, this display that delights the neighbors or frightens the children, maybe. It's not too grisly or gory, but I love it. And it's another one of my amateur interests that it's just purely no money involved whatsoever. I made a website called creepyyard.com where I lay out how I make creepy yards and how you can do it. Just to show people that this isn't complicated stuff and you can do it. And so I made a how-to site on how to make creepy yards. Well, I went to college. I was very excited to go to college. I had lots of interests. I was a dabbler. I dabbled in all sorts of things. I was not there to specialize. I was there to enrich myself, to have fun, and to learn like a little sponge. Cell bio was one of my favorite classes, although that and a chemistry class I took convinced me that I was not to be a scientist. I loved it, but I didn't have the brilliance to follow through with that or the focus to follow through with that because in the meantime, I was doing a lot of performing, a lot of singing in choirs, a whole bunch of different choirs. I was the bass soloist for a number of years for my school. Painting. I learned the German language. One of my favorite classes was an invertebrates class. Boy, was that cool. And my love of invertebrates still lives on with my macro photography. What am I doing for time? Ooh, I got to keep going. As I said, lots of theater. I made a lot of audio sketches on it with a multi-track recorder that I had. I thought German was fascinating from the world of culture and history and philosophy that it opened up. And I loved philosophy. I thought it was cool and interesting. So I got a year in Germany studying at the University of Göttingen. So I speak German, although I don't get a chance to use it very often, but sometimes I still read it. And for me, I saw the evolution of philosophy this way, that Nietzsche was the first philosophical stand-up comedian. He's hilarious to me. And then he transitioned into Mark Twain, who then transitioned to George Carlin, who then transitioned to Steve Martin. This is part of one of the branches that philosophy took in the 20th century. The other branch is more like literary criticism, and it's not as fun or enjoyable. So I took the stand-up comedy branch. Had a lot of fun doing sketch comedy and stand-up, starting in college. There's my buddy Scott's brother up there, upper right, Mike Aldridge, still a good friend. So upon graduation from college with my degree in philosophy and practically a minor in German, what were my ambitions and goals? Absolutely nothing. I had no ambitions and no goals whatsoever. I went back to my hometown and mowed yards. I tried to sell records for a band, and I was terrible at it. I became a mall Santa, as you can see in this lovely article from the Denver Post. Oh, excuse me, the Rocky Mountain News, where that was one of my first real gigs as a performer was being a mall Santa. A friend of mine called up and said, "Hey, do you want to split a freezing garage apartment with me in Colorado Springs?" And I said, "Sure." And I called up another friend who owned an ice cream shop. And I said, "Can I work at your ice cream shop? Because I need a job." And he said, "Sure." And so thus began my life in the real world. I explored lots of live performing in Colorado, everything from children's theater, where I met my soon-to-be wife down there in the lower right, to singing telegrams, corporate theater, Shakespeare, which of course pays nothing. And I'm just kind of trying what looks like fun, not necessarily what's bringing me cash or career opportunities, because again, I saw this as just having fun, right? I'm just doing this for fun. If it pays, then, well, that's not bad. Maybe I'll do a little bit more of that. If it pays, but it's miserable, it's like, well, I'm going to do less of that. But if it's fun and it pays, I'm going to do more of that. So it eventually led me to work theme parks in Orlando, Florida, where the cockroaches are so big they have facial expressions. I was the first walk around Beetlejuice when they opened up Universal Studios and did trunk shows in the World Showcase at Epcot, as well as a sketch, kind of a health-related comedy show and the Wonders of Life Pavilion at Epcot called the Anatomical Players. It was a lot of fun. Learned improv, working with really brilliantly good improv people, from some of the people you see mentioned here to Wayne Brady and Jonathan Mangum and lots of others who are now out in Hollywood doing their thing. And so I got in with really good improv actors and kind of saw what that was about, which was a huge and vital education for me. There's my singing teacher, Manny, no longer with us. Helped me get roles in musicals while working in Orlando. Had a lot of fun doing musicals. Finally got my breakthrough show, which is a game show called Legends of the Hidden Temple, where I voiced Olmec, this big talking rock god who's part of the game. That was rebooted into a movie in 2016, and we just rebooted the game show that we just shot in July. And there I am working the Olmec mouth again in the lower right. That's going to premiere. I think it's on CW in October. Legends of the Hidden Temple. They're bringing it back, which is fine by me. So with that, Kirk Fogg, the host of Legends of the Hidden Temple, said, "Come check out Los Angeles." And I did. And my wife and I decided to move here to kind of up our game and to see how things would go. I started trying on camera. It's like, I'll try whatever looks like fun. Why not? I did a silly game show from the same producers as Legends of the Hidden Temple called Shop Till You Drop. Had a lot of fun in that. I was in a television series on Nickelodeon called The Journey of Alan Strange, and other little bit roles and other things. But oh well, there's a picture of my dad. He played trombone with Stan Kenton in the Capitol Records building, which I ended up recording a song as Daffy Duck on the Space Jam soundtrack. And I only realized afterwards, hey, I've worked in the Capitol Records building, as has my dad. My first animated series was Cow and Chicken. Very broad, very crazy, working with two brilliant voice actors, Candy Milo and Charlie Adler. Learned an awful lot from them. I think the best way to learn acting or voice acting is to work with someone who's better than you, who has more confidence and more experience, and you learn from them. I'm not knocking training or school learning of acting necessarily, but that's not where I got my education. For me, it was Cow and Chicken. Here's some of the storyboard. Just a crazy ass show. Really funny, really fun. I just adored that show. Learned a lot. There are comic book artists who go on to do various things. This is Mike Plug, an artist that I followed since the Planet of the Apes magazines back in the 70s, who did the storyboards, which is sort of the comic book on which they based the shooting of a movie for some of my favorite movies, The Thing, Little Shop of Horrors, and not Labyrinth. It's Dark Crystal. Ha! Getting old. Can't remember everything. But it's an interesting thing to unpack. I don't have time to do this now, but just the evolution of vaudeville and broad performance, playing to the cheap seats, shall we say, that goes all the way back to Commedia and probably even to Aristophanes. Broad comedic, very visual comedy, and how that moved from there into animation, like into Looney Tunes, and then back into movies and also into other animation as well. I'm particularly fond of movies that I consider living cartoons, among those that you see shown here. Some of my very favorite movies. Love them to death. What's it like to be a voice actor? Voice acting is not easy. It's actually, you've got to, it takes a lot of experience and a lot of talent and patience and luck to be able to do that. It's not just about doing funny voices. It's acting, it's very much acting at its core. You can break in if you've got the talent or the ability. And it's not really something that's just a supplement of other work. It's something that you have to focus on to make happen, not a casual career. Great fun to work with these people who make these shows. Such a talented, kind, and generous and welcoming family of people. We're not backbiting cutthroats like you can find in On Camera. We're kind of like the Wrecking Crew, if you've ever seen that movie. We're invisible, but we're everywhere. Sometimes you meet with really remarkable people who are well known, who are also good voice actors too. There's some very exciting moments. Each of these are very exciting moments for me. So this is what it looks like when you're getting mic'd up, at least back in the old days when we recorded in a studio. Sometimes you're together as the ensemble. Sometimes you record on your own. This past year and a half, I've been recording very solo in my own home with my own microphone in my own studio. This is the studio where I'm recording from or talking to you from right now. It's a deeply collaborative art form, as I mentioned. It's easy to get credit as a voice actor, say, I voiced this character, so I am this character. But it's like, yeah, I'm part of that. I'm an important part of it. But there's, 100, maybe 200 people that are working on every frame of an animated cartoon, from the writers to the who light it, who time it, who produce it, who cast it, who direct it. This is an ensemble effort, and it's a deeply collaborative art form, which is part of what I really love about it. That's part of why you get into acting, is you not only get the love of the audience and the applause, but you also get the collaborative sort of voluntary family of being an actor. That's the real fun. Sometimes you're paid to do really weird stuff as a voice actor. They have what's called ADR, which is automated dialogue replacement, where they show you the picture and then you just read the corrected or added sounds or words, which can sometimes just be just the weirdest stuff. Like here we have making a smashing banjo growl, or sucking on my fist, or let's sniffing tail into barf effort. This is some of the stuff that I'm sometimes asked to do as a voice actor. Fan conventions. I love fan conventions. I call them the opposite of Twitter because they're all about inclusiveness and enthusiasm, coexistence of multiple disparate narratives and mythologies. Everybody gets along. Sweet, generous, relaxed, fun vibe. It's creative, and you're encouraged to be yourself, to be who you are. What could be better than that? We make stories that connect with people. I really started seeing that when I started attending conventions. I didn't really realize how deeply people are touched by a cartoon. And it can just be the most incidental one-off cartoon, and it will touch people in ways that are pretty profound. Sometimes they'll make what I do into a toy. That's a weird feeling. Voice acting is different from on camera in that you don't have to memorize lines. It's air conditioned. There's no rehearsing. Sessions are quick. Doesn't pay a lot. You just have to get a lot of work. And now you work from home, and it selects for versatility, and you can work multiple shows. Got to be a good actor, good at improv, directable, funny, engaging, etc. What's my advice for someone who wants to be a creative pro? I have another website. You guessed it. It's free and there's no money involved. It's iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. And there I lay out everything that I've learned about becoming an actor, becoming an entrepreneurial creative, and becoming a voice actor. I send everybody who asks me anything about voiceovers to this site. That way I don't have to talk about it. And they have a full unpacking of everything. And it's everything. I keep adding to it. And others in the industry are very thankful that they can just refer them to this site as well. As I said, I make no money. I just put it out there to put out the good information. So when you're starting out, aim for the fun. Don't aim for fame or money. If you're looking for a job, if you're looking for money, that's terrible, and it's not going to lead you anywhere. That's desperate. You want to aim for the fun of learning to become an actor, the fun of getting good at something, of becoming who you are. The goal is never to book the gig. That's kind of a goal, but it's a smaller goal. The biggest goal is to be so good that they have to hire you again and again. That's the goal. If you ask me, what should I do? I'll ask you, what are you doing to get better? What are you doing right now, today, this week, this month, to get so good that they have to hire you? If you're asking yourself that question, everything else falls into place. Everything. Oh, there's a couple of stories. I'm not going to tell them. I don't think I have enough time because I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm talking too much. But I want an aspiring creative to be thinking not just how do I get a job. I want you to think about how do I get good at this? And what else am I doing in my life that I love? What do I love besides this thing that I think I want to do to earn a career? Because I want you to have those as part of your life as well. It's very important. You've got to charge yourself like a battery. You've got to feed your life so that feeds your work and feeds your career. That's key. That's a key realization. You are a battery. And your job is not to be prepared. Your job is to be ready. Your job is to be ever ready to discharge your talent whenever it is called upon from you. My perspective, life is an improv. Be a lifetime amateur. Always do things that you love, not whether there's money involved or not. Education is an incredible asset. Even a liberal arts education, a non-specific focus like I had with German and philosophy. What are you going to do with that? I'll tell you what you can do with that. You can become a voice actor. You can become anything with that. Because it wakes up your mind and it wakes up who I am, right? I'm not a fan of early specialization. I think kids these days think they have to get a career. They got to make $1 billion. They got to specialize. And I think that's BS. I think you need to become who you are. You need to be energized and filled with things that you love. And then from those things, you select the things that you're good at, that you first of all love, and then second of all, you're good at, and then follow that. Obedience will only get you so far. Uh, don't always be doing what you're told. You find your default, the thing that you're good at that you love, you establish that, and then you branch out from that. If you want. Some people don't, but I've found that to be a great way to go. I'm at the age where I know that you need to listen to your body. I've learned this on a couple of health events, and fortunately, because of my acting experience and training, such as it was, I learned this, that if something's up, if something's off or odd about how I feel or how my body is behaving or feeling, then I've got to attend to that. That's key, because there's a lot of things that can go down if you ignore them. And always seek to charge that battery. You are a battery. Okay, so there it is. There's what I do, and there's how I think I got here, and there's kind of my advice for anybody who wants to know about it. And there are my websites, which again, it's like, I don't really want followers. I don't, I know I'm a weirdo, but I'm on social media and I have these websites, but I just put those things out there because I love them and I like them, and hopefully you will too. So with that, I think I'm going to step away and stop sharing and just come back and maybe field some questions. How's that?
That was great, Dee. No, thank you so much.
Is anybody left? Is anybody still in the theater?
Make some cricket noises for us.
There it is, the crickets. At least the crickets are still around.
Oh, that was a wonderful presentation. We really appreciate it, and do have some questions that have come in that I will get back. I've got to go way back to the beginning here, but why don't you, while we're waiting for that, talk to us a little bit about when you kind of felt like you discovered voice acting as your thing. What sort of...
It became clear to me once I was out in Hollywood for a number of years, maybe 5 or 6, but it took me a while because I was still open to trying on camera. But the wind was shifting, and it was the most amount of fun for the least amount of work and the most amount of money was voice acting.
Well, I know, as you mentioned in the program, that my brother was in the comedy group with you at the Colorado
Yes,
College.
we call ourselves Breakless Bongo Fury.
And
which
I have a
I have-
few of those recordings still hanging
God.
around that I listen to every now and then. The
So stupid.
Happy Bank, but you guys were doing voices and all sorts of
Yeah.
wild things way back then. So
Yeah. I think if you want to be a creative professional, make stuff that you like. Don't stop making stuff. Make it with others, but always make stuff. It's fun, right? You're not trying to get money. You're trying to have fun. After you have fun, then you make the money.
I'm going to bring on Rod Norrish to ask his question. And I would say if there's another question to add to your frequently asked questions, this is one that's come in by many people. So go ahead,
Yes.
Rod, if you want to unmute yourself. There you go. You're on, Rod.
You're on,
Yeah,
Rod.
I'm just wondering when how you developed your voice to be a voice actor.
There's a number of angles to that. One is trying lots of different performing, and another is getting a good singing teacher that I had. Part of it is just kind of my DNA is that I like character, I like comedy, I like broad characters. That's interesting to me, and it's like there's a lot about acting and voice acting that I think it's something like talent. You know, it can be encouraged, but it can't be taught. There's an inborn interest that a person has, whether it's being an engineer or an accountant or a voice actor, that is something that resonates with you that you're just kind of innately good at. And so as I tried to show is that my interest in animals, my interest in monster movies and sci-fi, my interest in acting and comedy, these threads were woven from my early life. And that's why it's such a good fit for me is for those reasons. That's what inspired me. That's what fired my enthusiasm. And then from just doing a lot of shows and getting good singing training, and being around others who also had similar interests and abilities, that I was able to kind of focus the lens and lock into that kind of a thing, so that I could do all this weird stuff with my voice, and really with my acting, not just with my voice, but it's the kind of actor that I have become.
Gonna Anne Shotwell, if you'd like to unmute yourself, Anne, and ask your question. Anne, are you there? You go.
Yes. I have a friend who's a voice actor, and one of the gigs that she gets is to call in to radio talk shows, and she's given a character that she's supposed to be, and sometimes she's even given a script that she's supposed to be, and she impersonates these people.
Okay.
Do you ever do that kind of work, and what do you think about the ethics of that?
Ethics? What's unethical about that? You're just
Well,
calling in as a character. What's wrong
You're
with that?
calling in as a character, but nobody knows that you're calling in as a paid character. You're
Well,
calling in as though you're a caller.
Well, it just feels very familiar to me, because I mean, I'm never hired to be myself. That's all I do. I don't know if I phone it in, so to speak, but it's you know, an actor's job, even a comedian's job, is to perform a variation of themselves, to paint from an inner palette, and to create characters and situations and emotions, that's what actors do. That is what we do. And if someone gives you some money to do it, even better. So I'm all for it. I don't think you're going to make a lot of money doing that, but you know, we all have humble beginnings, or maybe it's just a fun hobby, and it's fun to do that for a little bit of cash, or just for the fun of it. Yeah, I've never done that myself. I mean, working in radio is something that's actually one of the realms of voice acting or vocal performing that I haven't done a lot of, but if it's fun, why not?
And Frankie Harris, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay, let's see. Did I do it?
You are on.
You did it.
Okay, all right, yay. I have two questions, if you don't mind. My first question is, how in the world do you remember all the different sounds and voices for all those different characters? Do you tape and have like a card catalog full of
Nope.
them, or?
Nope, they play it. I ask for reference, and it is their job in the studio to have that reference ready and available if it's a pre-existing character that I've done.
Okay, well,
They
that
do
makes
the work.
sense.
Yeah, I love that.
Might as well.
Not my department.
And then the other part was, if you don't mind, if you can think of your worst versus your best gig that you've had as a voice actor in your many years.
My worst gig. I'm trying to think of a worst.
Oh, well, that's
Or-
good.
I just don't. Something that I hated doing? I can't think of anything.
That's wonderful. How about the best?
Well, there is no best. There's because it really is most all really fun to me.
Yeah.
But I'm particularly fond of the Avatar Airbender series and the fun
Yeah.
of that, and the people that I got to work with, working with Andrea Romano, and it's just
Mhm.
such a beautiful show.
Mhm. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've really enjoyed your talk.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Marilyn Siegel, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. How do you protect your voice from damage when doing a variety of sounds?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's similar to asking, you can ask a musician, how do you have the stamina to keep playing and not just falling apart? Or an athlete, how do you run those different events and not just collapse? And the answer is, you have good experience and good training, and you're first of all, you know the muscles to use, and you second of all, and maybe even more importantly, you know the muscles not to use. And so as you get good at what you do, you also learn what to avoid and how to pull your punches in a way that still delivers the goods, but that doesn't do it in a way that's self-damaging. And my singing teacher in particular was very good about finding a placement that is both relaxed yet powerful for vocal performance, and then also to rehabilitate my voice back to a more relaxed center once I'm done with something that's particularly strenuous. So that was of great help to me, was my singing teacher.
Had you worked at all with a speech therapist?
No, I don't have any speech to therapize.
Okay.
I just needed to learn to sing more properly and sing better. And
Okay.
if you want that, you cannot beat a good opera singer, because they're the
Okay.
ones, they know the physiology and they know all of it, the acting, the physiology, all of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Velma Sinaga, if I got your last name correctly, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, hi, Dee.
Hey.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I was wondering about, you mentioned that you created a sound for Phineas, that
Mhm.
show.
Yes.
And
Perry
so,
the Platypus.
okay. Are you paid every single time that show is on TV, like years into the future, like the way they did
Yes.
the Johnny Carson show?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
as a union actor, you get a piece of the back end, as they say. You get residuals or some kind of, it's approximating royalties. And with streaming, they kind of structure it differently. But the idea is, as a professional actor, as a union actor, which I am, then you get some of that, something in perpetuity from your performance. If you're non-union, you don't. You only get your buyout, your pay up front, and that's it. See you later, kid. We're going to go make as much money off of this as we can until the end of time. As a union voice actor, you get a piece of that, just like a
Okay.
musician does in a song that they play.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, also, I'm wondering why your maternal grandmother does not like the name Velma.
I can't imagine. It's a lovely name.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, here's a good Ollie question for you from Saul Grossman. Saul, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, does the concept of retirement have any meaning to you?
Why would I do that? I'm having fun. There's no downside to being a voice actor that I could think of. I have so much fun. I mean, I could, you know, but I don't, normally retirement sounds like it's something that you're tired of doing, but I'm not tired of doing this.
Okay, great.
It's really fun. So why would I stop?
Great. Thank you.
All right, and we have another question by, let's see here. Oh, real quick, while I'm getting that geared up, we have one of the things that's a great documentary I think people should watch is, I believe it's whose voice is that?
No, that's not what it's called.
What is it called again?
I Know That Voice.
Oh, I Know That Voice. Thank you.
I Know That Voice.
I Know That Voice. Anyway, that's an
I
incredible.
don't know the title, but I know that
No, I
voice.
don't know the title, and actually that title has stumped me for years. I'm not sure why, but you can. I think you can stream it on Amazon right now, and it gives a great glimpse into his profession. And I think one of the things I've gleaned a few years ago, I was lucky enough to be at Comic-Con with you, and you kind of understand that this community that you have of voice actors is very unique, it seems. Could you talk a little bit about sort of your friends and in the business and how it kind of differs in a lot of ways from, you know, on-screen actors?
Well, as I said, I mean, they're actors, you know, they're gypsy people, but it's just on camera mangles you into a different kind of creature. And when you sign on for the relatively anonymous life of a voice actor, because a lot of actors, they get into acting partially because they want to be seen. They want to be loved by an audience that's live. And voice acting is not that. You get the audience love at a convention, but we perform for each other because we like doing a show, because we like making creating a collaborative story together. So it's a different tone of creative person. which is to say it's less threatened. More, I mean, we're not threatened. We're not threatened by each other. We're okay if our friend gets the gig, or if they're trying to say audition my friend's character because they don't want to pay him the money, then I'm not going to audition for that. But that's voiceovers are like that, you know, voice actors are like that. On camera, it's more every man for him and woman for themselves.
All right, we've got a question from Bruce Goldstein. Bruce, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question, you should have an unmute there.
Okay. So there's this concept of turning points in life where something happens where you all of a sudden have a realization that you want to go in one direction rather than another. And I wonder if you can identify when that happened, when you decided to go from being more of a traditional on-camera person to your anonymous voice person.
Yeah, well, it was coming to a head because I was starting to do animated series and animation voice work, and I was starting to do on-camera stuff. And the way it works with on-camera is they own your butt, and they want you there now, and they don't want you out doing other stuff. And there was a point where I had a voiceover gig. I think I was working on right at the beginning of Cow and Chicken. And I also was going to go to producers, as they say, which is kind of the final approval point before you get cast in a television show. And I had to choose. I not just choose between this audition and this voiceover gig, but it was, if I'm telling the casting director that I'm not going to producers because they want me and she wants me to go to producers, I am effectively burning that bridge. And so I did, because I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Thanks. How did you get your first voiceover gig?
Well, my first voiceover gig was probably doing a horrible voiceover, non-union voiceover commercial in Colorado Springs. And I just I gave them my resume, and then I might have auditioned for it, or they might have just assigned it to me. But generally, it's just from auditioning. You get an agent and you audition.
Thanks.
That's how I've done it. These days, it's a little different. There's much that's done online in terms of starting out and non-union and all that. But I see that more as something to get past rather than to dwell on.
Marilyn Siegel, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
I already did.
Sorry, I meant Mary Allen. I apologize. Mary Allen, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question. Mary Hare. Wait, I guess the person who had the question is gone, so I apologize. Not Mary Allen either. Mary Harris had a question, but apparently has left. But she was asking about women voice actors and how many are out there, and tell us.
There's lots of great women voice actors. Great Delisle, Kari Wahlberg, Tara Strong, many others. There's lots of fantastic female voice actors as well. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you talked a little bit about unions and the like. I assume you view that as in a favorable way. And
I do. I mean, it's a mess. It's a democratic entity, which is to say it's a mess, but it's the best mess that you can hope for.
And do you worry about the nature of that? And do you think it's in jeopardy in Hollywood more than,
Not in animation.
Yeah.
But generally, democracy works if people get involved. If everyone just kind of passively lets it play out, that's when there's a problem. So I've seen very, very clearly from my neck of the woods that direct involvement of the voice actors that work the contract with the negotiation of that contract and how it's administered and how it's executed and overseen and all that. If we are involved with it, we are a powerful force to be reckoned with. But we got to get up off our butts and engage with the process. Otherwise, we're screwing ourselves by just letting things drift. That you have a democracy is not just this default that's going to set things up in a benevolent, enjoyable way for you and everybody else. You've got to be involved with it.
And actually, a question came in just now, Carla Erb, if you want to add on to that, because it kind of ties with what you're talking about.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you. You and the union sound fiercely independent and ethical, which is refreshing.
whoop. Sorry, I think I accidentally muted, or
That wasn't very ethical of you.
I
to
was
mute
not
her.
ethical to.
I don't think you're a very ethical person.
You're back on, Carla. I apologize.
Okay, so anyway, so I'm impressed. And yet I've recently been reading about, learning about the difficulty of equity for female actresses, let's say. And you make clear that what happens in front of the camera and on your side is a very different world. How is the equity for women and people of color, number of people hired, members of the union for your union?
I don't know deep information about that, but I would say that it's very clear to me, just from who I work with and what projects I work with, that that these lenses are in place, both in the corporations that create content, as well as with the union that provides the content. That there is much more involvement, much more spotlight, and much more power on the part of those who are either less visible or who are marginalized or not recognized, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a transformed industry. I've seen it changing over 30 years, I think. And it's moving in a direction that is more inclusive and more diversified, and all of the good things that I think are great, as far as I can see. I don't have a deep understanding as to what is behind the mechanisms of making that happen, but it strikes me that they're very much engaged.
So go ahead.
Well, I think the first thing for changing those metrics is, for the change in the hearts of people like you, which sounds like has occurred, but also a change in saying the words out loud and over again. There's an ethical way to do whatever business we are doing. So
sounds good to me.
Keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So talk about agent. So are you still using an agent? How does that work? And
my agent is my taxi dispatcher, and I am the taxi. I've always had an agent as a professional voice actor, as a professional actor, because I don't want to negotiate my own contracts. I want the protection and the expertise that an agent provides. So yes to a good agent.
I know I wasn't quite sure how prevalent that is to people represent themselves or not. I know
non-union, you probably represent yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Once you're union as a voice actor, you're going to have, for the most part, you're going to be working through an agent. There's some exceptions to that, but for the most part, you have the partnership of an agent.
I've heard fun stories about Bill Murray through the years that he represents himself, I guess, and it's kind of a wild.
I can well imagine.
But Frankie Harris is asking about your union. Are you SAG or what union?
SAG-AFTRA. SAG-AFTRA is the two unions. What used to be two unions, Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA, are now one union, AFTRA, one performers union. Stage acting is for equity, and most other acting, television, movies, some other realms as well. It's SAG-AFTRA.
Well, Dee, we've come to the end of our time, and I really appreciate you joining us and sharing this amazing world you live in. It is Just an incredible.
I hope you enjoyed it. I had no idea if anybody wants to hear any of this, because frankly, I'm kind of bored with my life, with my life story. I've just, as you can see, I've kind of unpacked it and kind of written it out just so I have a picture of it. But I'm not convinced that it's a particularly interesting life. But in any case, you know, I hope that everybody enjoyed it, and I hope that there's something of interest, something that's encouraging. And if you or someone that you know is interested in voice acting, you can go to my site, iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, which will hopefully provide some good insight and fuel for what's to come, which is going to be a long, fun journey.
Well, thank you again so much, and we really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody. We had some great shout outs. People did invite their kids and grandkids, and a number of people that are really enjoyed the presentation. So thank you again so much. And thanks to everybody for joining us out in the Ollie world, Ollieverse. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks with our next speaker series. So until then, we'll see you later.
So long, Screwy. See you in St. Louis.
All right. Take care. And it can't end better than that. Thanks so much again, Dee.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.